everyone, welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Nina.
And I'm Sam.
And today we're going to be talking about boxing.
Interesting. Yes, and I'm actually really excited because we're about to watch a boxing match. And it's my first boxing match ever.
Really?
Yeah, growing up I mostly watched, basketball, football, but I'm excited to watch a boxing match.
Oh, yeah, it's actually so much fun because my dad and my brother love watching boxing matches. So I always end up watching with them because it's on TV and yeah, they get very excited. So I try to get excited with them. I don't know who is who, but I'm always like, oh, I like that one. He seems better, so I'm going to support him.
Yeah, and this match is going to be really fun to watch, I think, because I heard that they both haven't lost yet. So
yes, they're both kind of champions, right? So this is like the ultimate match, and I can't wait to watch.
Ooh, but I'm kind of a little bit worried. I don't really want to see somebody like get punched in the face or get hurt. But I know it's exciting, but I'm also a little nervous for them.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see who wins, and hopefully it's not too violent.
Hopefully. Well, it's about to start, so let's go ahead and turn on the TV and start watching.
Old Tom King was a boxer. He was going to fight a much younger Sandal that evening. Before the fight, Lizzie made him a simple meal of bread and gravy.
Hi, so welcome to our reading today. Our reading today is called A Piece of Steak, and this is part 1. But this is kind of a funny title because it says a piece of steak, and normally we have a saying that goes a piece of cake. Which means something is super easy. But in this case, now we have a piece of steak, which obviously steak is a noun. It's beef, so it comes from a cow. And it's usually the kind of nicer part of the cow, the nicer cut of beef.
Yeah.
And it's grilled, and you can get it at nice restaurants, or you can get it, actually in Taiwan, you can get it at the night market.
Yes, you can.
And you will get it with a side of noodles, which is interesting, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
So this title is a little bit funny. So instead of a piece of cake, now we have a piece of steak. So I wonder what this reading is going to be about.
Yeah, let's find out. Old Tom King was a boxer. He was going to fight a much younger Sandal that evening. He's a boxer, and he was going to fight someone much younger.
Ooh, so this story is already kind of getting a setup of you've got kind of the older boxer, maybe he's got more experience, but he might start to be a little
tired.
Yeah, a little weaker.
Yeah.
And now he's gonna fight this kind of up and coming boxer.
So he probably has more energy, right? So we'll see who is the better boxer. So the word boxer is a noun and is someone that does boxing. And boxing is a sport where two people try to knock each other down with gloved fists. So you wear the boxing gloves and try to punch the other person.
Yeah, and this is kind of an interesting sport because, they're trying to obviously hurt each other a little bit, but they at least get to wear gloves, so they try not to hurt each other too much.
Yeah.
And it's broken into rounds, and so every round is about 3 minutes, and then you have to see who does better in each round to see who's going to win. Or maybe somebody gets knocked down and they don't get back up in 10 seconds, which I think we're going to see more in our story.
Yeah.
And we also had this word evening. So evening is the kind of close to nighttime part of the day. So if we look at a day, we say morning, we say afternoon, then we say evening, and then we say night. So evening is usually maybe 5, 6 o'clock, that kind of time that's around dinner time or just after dinner or just before, but not into night. Night is probably maybe starts around 9 p.m. And so before that is called evening. So sun's starting to go down, but it's not too dark yet.
Yeah, and night you usually go to sleep, right?
So evening you might be eating, night you're probably sleeping. Okay, so let's go back to our reading and see what happens next. So before the fight, Lizzie made him a simple meal of bread and gravy.
Interesting. Bread and gravy alone. Seems like something is missing, right?
Yes, bread and gravy sounds like a meal that maybe maybe they don't have very much money and so they are not able to eat too much because if you're before a fight, you might want to eat something a little heavier than just bread and
especially
gravy.
Meat, right? So maybe that's where the steak comes in. Let's find out. So here, bread, the word is a noun, and bread is a food that is usually made of flour, eggs, and other ingredients. So in Taiwan, you have your bakery shops, right? And the bread tends to be sweet. Have you noticed?
Yes, I have noticed, and it is one thing that makes me a tiny bit crazy because I love bread, but in America, like my go-to bread is just a French, like baguette, that kind of bread, or French bread. That's just like very, well, not sweet. It's just not sweet. And so it's very weird for me to have a lot of sweet bread over here.
Yeah, and usually with bread you would add maybe butter, and then you can decide how you want your bread to taste, right?
So in my mind, it's like bread should be very simple, almost no taste, and then you can add whatever. And then we also had this word gravy in here. So he had bread and gravy. So gravy is a sauce, and this kind of sauce, we usually eat it with meat. But what's also interesting about it is that it's usually made from the meat that you're cooking. So you know, when you cook meat, some kind of juices kind of come out of the meat, and that's usually where the gravy is made from. And then it's poured on top of the meat, and then you can eat it. So it's almost like he has meat in his dinner. He's got bread and he's got gravy that might have a hint of meat, but probably not too much.
Yeah, that's why I felt like it was weird. Bread and gravy, something is missing, isn't it? Because usually you would have your meat on, and then you have gravy on top and maybe bread on the side. So yeah, it looks like he's lacking some meat in his dish, but let's find out what happens after the break.
Tom ate it, but he wished for a piece of steak. However, he knew that was impossible. Tom didn't have enough money for rent or for food for Lizzie and their 2 kids. When it was time for Tom to leave, Lizzie hugged him. She wished him luck and told him to win.
Okay, so welcome back. So we had kind of started off our story. We've got Tom, who is a boxer, and he has a match a little bit later. And we just had his wife, Lizzie, cook him a meal. But the meal is very small. It's only bread and gravy. So he didn't get to eat very much. So now we get to see, how does this tie into the whole story? So we can see what's going to happen next.
Yes, so Tom ate it, but he wished for a piece of steak. However, he knew that was impossible. Oh, okay, so that doesn't sound very good, right? Maybe steak is too expensive for them?
Yeah, so it sounds like we're kind of starting to get this picture of who Tom and his family are, and it sounds like they must not have very much money, and that's why even though he is like wishing for a piece of steak, he knows that it's not going to happen, and so he has to try to fight and be good with just bread and gravy. And so in this part of the story, we had the word wish. So wish is a verb, and it means that you are asking for something that might be a little bit hard to actually get. You might be wishing, or you might be hoping, and you really, really want that thing to come true, but it probably won't. And so we might have a sentence like, I wish I had $1 million.
Oh, I wish that too.
Yes, I feel like that is a very common wish, but it's something that it's like, maybe it's not super realistic or something that will come true that often, and so we use the word wish. So a lot of people confuse the word wish and hope. And so the big difference between the two is that you use wish when it's something even farther away that most likely won't happen. And hope is something that could happen. Like, oh, I have a test tomorrow. I hope it goes well. But if I have a test tomorrow, I might say, I wish that the test disappeared, because that probably won't happen. So I can use wish in that way versus hope.
Yeah, it's just like when it's your birthday, you make a wish, right? And usually the wishes that you make are maybe harder to get.
Yeah.
Like I wish for world peace.
And your hope the wish part kind of ties in with some luck. You're hoping that you have some luck to get these wishes that are harder to get.
Indeed. And so he said that he wished he had more or a piece of steak, but he knew that was impossible. So here the word impossible is an adjective. So if an action or event is impossible, it cannot happen. So it is not possible. It won't happen.
Yes, and so now we've got this situation where, again, we're looking at poor Tom who doesn't have enough money for food, which is what we're going to find out in this next part of our story. We have Tom didn't have enough money for rent or for food for Lizzie and their 2 kids.
Oh.
So now we know it's not just Tom and his wife, it's also Tom, his wife, Lizzie, and 2 kids. And so sounds like they really don't have a lot of money.
Yeah, so they don't have money for rent or food.
Yes.
So it must be very, very difficult for them. Yes. And he doesn't have the right amount of food or food that will give him enough energy for the fight.
Ooh,
so it must be
some foreshadowing.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yes, and so in this part of the reading we had the word rent. So rent, a lot of times you run into this word as a verb, meaning you rent something, means you borrow something. But in this case, we're using it as a noun. So rent as a noun means the amount of money that you have to pay every month to live in a place. As far as this case goes, they are renting a house or they're renting an apartment or something like that. And so every month they have to pay their rent. They have to pay that money. You could also pay rent for other things. It doesn't have to be a house. If you owned a business, you would rent that space, and so then you would still have to pay rent. But it's a dollar amount. It's money that you have to pay.
Yeah, and rent, you could also rent a car, right? So if you don't have a car, you can rent a car.
You would rent the car, and then you have to pay rent on the car.
Exactly.
That kind of works.
All right, let's get back to the story. When it was time for Tom to leave, Lizzie hugged him. She wished him luck and told him to win. Oh, she told him to win. You better win.
Sounds like she's like really hoping, because this is probably, if he wins, he probably gets money, and they probably really need it.
Yes, it probably would help a lot. And she wished him good luck. Here, luck is a noun. So if you have good luck, it means something good happened to you by chance rather than through one's action. Or if you have bad luck, that means something bad happened to you by chance. You can't control it, right? For example, you would have good luck if you picked up the chocolate bar with a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
That would be very good luck, because in that movie there are many, 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 many chocolate bars, but only 5 golden tickets? So the chances are very small. So you have to be lucky, you have to have luck or have good luck in order to find the correct one.
Yeah, so I guess we really, really hope that he ends up winning this game. It will really help his family.
But we're going to have to find out in our next part what happens.
All right, bye guys.
Old Tom King was a boxer. He was going to fight a much younger Sandal that evening. Before the fight, Lizzie made him a simple meal of bread and gravy. Tom ate it, but he wished for a piece of steak. However, he knew that was impossible. Tom didn't have enough money for rent or for food for Lizzie and their 2 kids. When it was time for Tom to leave, Lizzie hugged him. She wished him luck and told him to win.
Hi， 大家好，我是 Stephanie。那我们今天一起来看单字。第一个单字呢是 steak， 名词牛排。当我们去牛排馆的时候，服务生可能会问你以下这个例句 ：How would you like your steak done？ 你的牛排要几分熟？这时候我们当然要知道自己喜好的熟度，英文怎么说？这边就补充几个，以后大家就可以派上用场了。如果你是不敢吃带血牛排的人 ，well done 就是全熟。 7分熟的讲法是 medium well， 介于中间的5分熟呢就是 medium， 最后牛排的3分熟就是 medium rare。好，第二个单字呢是 evening， 名词，晚上、傍晚。My flight departs in the evening， 我的航班晚上起飞。那第三个单字呢是 bread， 名词，面包。Beth ate a piece of bread for breakfast。 Beth 早餐吃了1块面包。最后一个单字呢是 rent， 名词，房屋或者是车子等等的租金。Zoe couldn't afford the rent in the city。 Zoe 付不起市区的房租。好，那我们一起看今天的文法。第一个呢是 a piece of， 一块一片。piece 是单位词，一块一片，可以用在1块面包或者是1片蛋糕等等。我们现在听一个例句。Gina is on a diet, so she just wants a small piece of cake. Gina 正在节食，所以她只想要1小块蛋糕。那大家一定听过 a piece of cake 的说法，也就是指某件事情很简单、轻而易举的意思。比如说 That test was a piece of cake. 那次考试真简单。另外，中文里面是不是有分一杯羹的讲法？外国人不吃羹，吃派，所以分一杯羹在英文里面的说法呢是 a piece of the pie。像是 After the billionaire passed away, every member of the family wanted a piece of the pie。亿万富翁去世之后，每一个家族成员都想分一杯羹。所以从片语里面，我们也可以了解外国人的饮食文化，是不是很有趣呢？第二个文法呢，我们要来复习 wish 的用法。wish 有3种层面的意思，第一种呢是希望，第二种是祝福，最后一种呢是事与愿违的但愿。我们就来看看如何应用。首先，第一种 somebody wishes for something， 某人希望得到某个物品，或者是想要。最近看完 Money Heist 纸房子之后，觉得西班牙文实在是太好听了，就很想要交一个西班牙的男朋友。这时候我就会说Now I wish for a Spanish boyfriend after watching Money Heist。 看完西班牙剧《纸房子》之后，我好想交个西班牙男朋友。这个用法呢，记得介系词是 for。 接着我们看第二种用法，祝福别人时候的讲法。 A wishes B something， A 祝福 B 某件事情。 We wished Irene a safe journey， 我们祝福 Irene 旅途平安。最后一种 wish 的用法呢，就是带一点惋惜的但愿。讲法是 somebody wishes that 加主词再加动词，某人但愿……前面的2种 wish 都是针对未来发生的事情。这个句型的 wish 是表达希望发生与现在事实相反的事情。后面的子句呢会用过去式。讲到这里，我就想到以前去日本的时候，那边英文都不通，这时候我的心里就会 OS。I wish I could speak Japanese。 我好希望我会说日文。好，今天的讲解就到这里 ，See you。
Hello, I'm Matt.
I'm Stephen.
Today we're going to play Word Drop. We each have 3 cards with vocabulary words or phrases on them, which we haven't looked at yet.
I haven't.
And we need to fit them into a conversation as smoothly as we can.
We will.
So, Stephen, do you want to start our conversation off?
Yes. Okay. So I am constantly eating. I can't stop. It's kind of like a habit or a hobby of mine. Probably a hobby. And I like to eat everything, like ice cream, vegetables, fruit, like anything sweet, anything salty, anything that I can eat, anything that's edible, I will eat it. And one of my favorite things is bread.
Bread? Wow. Well, I mean, it's good that you have a hobby. I think everyone should have a good hobby. And I had a hobby, which was...
Which was?
I was collecting collecting toys like models and stuff. And I spent so much money on this hobby that I didn't have enough money left to pay my rent.
That is really absurd. You really need to manage your money better. I think you should probably go to classes. And I know that a lot of us are busy during the day. We have jobs and responsibilities. or we're just too lazy to leave the house. But you can actually take some classes in universities, and you don't have to do it during the day. You could actually do it in the evening.
Oh yeah. Well, that would be nice if I could, learn better money management in the evening. But, usually in the evening I'm enjoying my other hobby, which is cooking.
Oh.
So,
how nice.
I like to prepare a nice dinner. And I like to spend a lot of time doing that. So actually, just last night, I prepared myself a delicious steak.
Wow, because your mom called me and she said that the steak was okay. It wasn't as good as you're telling me right now, which is why I'm quite surprised, because your mom was like, Matt was proud of it, but it could have been better. The steak was a little bit tough. It could have been seasoned better. It was a little bit like medium, but she likes medium rare. So basically your mom told me that she really wishes for better steak. She really wishes for better steak.
Well, I didn't know you'd been talking to my mom behind my back. But, yeah, actually I think she enjoyed it. In fact, you know what? And the sauce I made was so good that when she was done, just to get all the rest of the sauce, she to get it off the plate, she tore a nice piece of bread and then soaked up the sauce.
Good for her.
It was that good.
Good for her.
See you next time.